Once upon a time there was an old woman. She lived on an island. It was vastly covered by the wide spread of the ocean, which meant she had no way of getting out. It also meant that very few people knew where to find her. It had been many years since she had last seen another person, but she did not mind. She chose to stay on this island, even if it meant that she was all alone. The old woman felt that she could not leave, for many years ago, when she was much younger, she had a child. The two of them lived on this island together, and they were happy. But her child had been very small and had not yet learned the dangers of the ocean. One morning the child had crawled out of bed before their mother had awoken and went to the shoreline. They entered the ocean and never came back out. By the time the woman had seen what happened, it was too late. She found her child's remains and buried them beneath her house. And so she could not leave this island, because it would mean that her child would be left here without anyone. One day, as the old woman was preparing her morning tea, a storm had set in. It did not fall from the sky like rain, but rather it came up from the sea. Its waters rose until it lapped at the foot of her house. Soon the water was seeping in from the walls and filled up the rooms. The old woman was walking around waist deep in seawater, yet she did not stop her routine. The waters were cold and gave her a rash, but she did not stop her routine. The critters of the sea made their way into her house next. They planted themselves against her wooden walls and swam about her rooms, but she did not stop her routine. The foundation of her house creaked and screamed in protest, begging for the water to go down, or it would break. But she did not stop her routine. You see, she had lived this way for so long that she did not know what else to do. It was only when a new noise made itself known that her curiosity had been piqued. It was a sound she had not heard in decades apart from her own. It was the sound of someone crying. The old woman looked out of her window and saw a mermaid. She was perched up on a rock out past the shoreline. Her voice rang above the waters and over to the old woman's house. It was not a simple cry, as though she had just found her favorite pearl or seashell. It was a deep wailing cry. The old woman knew the sound well. The mermaid's heart had been broken. The old woman made her way out of her house. It had been a long time since she had last gone for a swim, yet her muscles remembered what to do. Slowly but surely, she reached the mermaid. At first, the aquatic creature took no notice of her. She continued to cry her broken song as though she was still the only one there. The old woman knew that feeling as well. The mermaid was staring at one spot in particular on the island, the same way the old woman had once stared into the ocean where she had found the body of her child. This mermaid must have had a child as well, and it had been beached. In an attempt to save them, the mermaid had conjured up this storm, but it must have been too late. The old woman swam out to where the mermaid had been staring, and her suspicions were confirmed. There was indeed the remains of a much smaller mermaid. She wrapped them up gentle in a way only a mother who had lost a child could, and brought them to the mermaid. She stared at the old woman in disbelief before taking the remains from her grasp. As she held on to her child, the old woman wrapped her arms around the mermaid, and they both wept. When they had finished, the mermaid let down the storm. The waters retreated back into the ocean. The old woman buried the mermaid's child next to her own. From then on, the mermaid visited the island every day, and the two of them were finally no longer alone.